Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. And welcome to Reviews Without Remorse, the podcast that's still struggling to embrace its role in the modern world. Here are your hosts, fighting for the red, white, and blue for over 48 years. I am the living, breathing symbol of freedom and liberty, Joe. And alongside, sometimes my trusty sidekick, but sometimes a cybernetic Cold War agent and the enemy's greatest weapon, Dave. This is episode number 51, and in this episode, Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer dropped. It looks pretty good, so why am I so fixated on Evangeline Lilly's haircut? The Super Bowl was this week, and with it, a lot of new trailers. Solo, a Star Wars Story, dropped a teaser and a slightly larger teaser. Will it win back the Last Jedi naysayers? We'll see. Infinity War spot, short but very sweet, we will discuss. The Mission Impossible 6 trailer, will this franchise knock out another home run? Spoilers, it's looking pretty good. What do you get when you combine Atomic Blonde with Black Widow? You get Red Sparrow. The trailer dropped, we'll discuss it. And finally, Skyscraper. Is this a real movie, or did I just get punked again like the Dundee remake?
Nope, it's a real movie, dude.
I seriously thought that was a gag, but we'll talk about it. My friend, how are you doing?
I am doing good, sir. I'm very excited to be talking about not only these interesting trailers that just dropped, but, of course, Captain America Winter Soldier. And when we get to that, I'll explain why I'm excited.
I just have one question. When Cap needed help, if I'd asked you, would you have come?
I guess we'll never know. But if you had, you'd have never been caught.
Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer. What'd you think? I thought it looked pretty good.
You know what? There was a severe lack of the Luis character, who I loved from the first one, but I'm kind of hoping they're just kind of saving him because he is the true comic relief of the series. But I loved it. I loved when they were shrinking and enlarging the cars during the car chase and stuff, when they're driving a Matchbox car, when he turned in the building into a frickin' handle drag-along bag. That was awesome. I just hope people weren't in there.
Yeah, right, seriously. I thought it looked pretty cool. I can't really say much about it. I really was kind of fixated on her hair, though, because I really did like that pixie cut she had in the first one, because for some reason I just thought that looks like the Wasp.
No, man, I'm excited about this. You know that they cast the part of Janet Van Dyne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did you know who that was? Michelle Pfeiffer.
Ah, okay. Interesting. Nice choice.
Yeah, I think it's a nice choice. So she'll be popping up in the movie. I'm excited about it. The first one I was leery about because of all the backstage drama with losing Edgar Wright and everything like that. But it wound up being quite enjoyable. And I'm kind of hoping that for this next one that they take it to a whole other level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that. Step it up a notch.
But the craziness in the trailer, everything there, that was great. The character of Ghost, I cannot believe that one of the villains is Ghost. What an amazing comic character. Relatively recent one, but a fierce one. Basically, think of somebody who has a techno suit that allows them to be like Kitty Pryde. Kind of like that.
All right, very good. I enjoyed the first one a lot, too, and I didn't expect much from it. Again, that was another one, probably along with Guardians of the Galaxy. I said, this is the one where they're going to screw it up. But no, they got it, so.
So you want to make a difference?
Yeah.
Trust me, you're going to love it. And which branch are you interested in joining?
I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
The Super Bowl trailers came out. Solo, a Star Wars Story. Finally, something drops from Solo. Thoughts?
Look at my face.
If you could picture the wah wah as an expression, that's pretty much what Dave looks like right now.
Look, I love Donald Glover as Lando, but I mean, we only saw him like for half a second in the Super Bowl trailer, let alone in the full trailer. Nothing about this has built any confidence in me. Are there some cool looking shots? Sure, there are some cool looking shots. But after The Last Jedi, I'm not holding out any hope for this at all. I didn't see anything in there that said, wow, that looks so cool, I've got to be there. You know,
Yeah.
Even the member berries weren't working on me.
Oh, I love to member to remember.
Like they had that shot at the end where Han and Chewie where Chewie puts his arms around Han, and I know that was put there. Oh boy, that's the big moment for the fans. It's like, nope, sorry, the member berries are dead. It's all over.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Well, you know, member berries, I almost feel like it doesn't even apply here because again, we're looking at characters we've never seen before. We're looking at a guy who's supposedly Han Solo but does not look familiar at all. The only tiny bit of familiarity is Chewie, and yeah, that tiny little thing at the end that's not enough to spark anything. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I did not really see anything in here that made me the slightest bit interested. You know, Rogue One, again, I was a big fan of Rogue One. I liked it. But again, Rogue One gave us new characters, not trying to rebuild old characters. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it kind of oddly looked nothing much to me like Star Wars, frankly. I kind of felt like they were kind of going down and dirty the way they did Rogue One, which on the surface makes sense. And I hope, you know, I that would make me sort of hopeful. But it didn't seem to play out in this. Like, the colors were very muted. I'm watching him. I almost felt like they were really trying to go for like an American Graffiti thing, where he's drag racing in the car, except the car is like a land speeder car. And I kind of, I mean, I almost felt like the obviousness, again, that first sit down meeting. What should we do? Let's throw out some ideas. And the first thing that comes out, well, it's Han Solo. He was probably young. He was probably you know, drag racing teenager. And he said, like, I mean, and the dialogue was so on the nose too, where he's like, I get into trouble and I've been running scams since I was 12 or something or other. And it's like, really? I mean, that just felt like so like pushing in your face. Look, I'm badass Han Solo. And it's like, all right. Plus that other, the scene when he's actually in the recruiting station.
Uh-huh.
That was awkward. I was sitting there saying to myself, wait. So the Empire now has like recruiting offices that you can go in and sign up to work for the Empire.
Well, supposedly, actually, the backstory for Han has kind of always been that way. So they're actually doing something that's relatively within canon. That, you know, that he was originally supposed to be a pilot for the Empire, but he either failed out or he quit or something along those lines. And that's fine. That actually was the thing I was least worried about, because I figured they were gonna do that, and I was like, there it is, little fan service right there for the Ultra fans. But yeah, I could see the awkwardness of its presentation. You would think there'd be something like a different methodology to encourage people to be pilots for the Empire. You know,
something, yeah. And again, if this is canon, if this is his story, put a twist on it. You know, make it look a little different than just your first draft of it. Like, again, you're telling me that Han Solo, he was going to be a pilot for the Empire? Okay, well, let's say there's a recruiting station. He walks in and says, I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to be the best darn pilot there is. Really?
Considering the turmoil with everything, I don't expect much. I really don't. Honestly, I'll be more surprised if I walked out entertained, let alone liking the movie.
So this is it. It's all been leading to this. Ready? Let's go.
Infinity War, again, short and sweet, but looks pretty damn good. I like that shot of Peter Parker on that thing. You can kind of see where that's
space. Yeah,
you can see where that's going. It looks pretty wild.
Without his mask too, you got to figure that stupid outfit that Tony made for him would have probably protected him from it, but that's not going to help in space. It always amazes me how, honestly, dude, you know what? They could not have gotten away with those 30 seconds if not for the past 10 years of movies. Because without all that context leading up to it, that was a mishmash of action scenes that on the whole would be empty, but because we know these characters, because we have basically grown up with these characters, every single shot meant something.
No, that's very true. You're absolutely right. I mean, they have put out a couple little teasers, up until now too. So this was just a couple more scenes that we hadn't seen yet. But yeah, I mean, it's my ticket is bought, guys. You sold me already, so
My ticket was bought the minute Nick Fury said at the end of Iron Man 1, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative.
You had a terrible choice to make in Berlin. One life over millions. And now the world is at risk.
This is the CIA's mission. If he had held on to the plutonium, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
His team would be dead.
Yes, they would. That's the job.
Now this looks pretty good. Mission Impossible 6. Wow. And I mean, this franchise has really been pretty consistent, frankly. And it's a weird franchise because it's not like the James Bond films try to get a film out every 2 years. Mission Impossible sort of comes and goes as it pleases, but boy, when they do a movie, it does not disappoint. The last few have been spectacular, and this one looks right up there with the rest of them.
I was actually kind of surprised myself. I kind of felt like, well, there's got to be, there's got to be like a burnout with this. I mean, how many times is this guy gonna have it? He's gonna have to go rogue again. He always goes freaking rogue. Isn't that getting a little boring at this point?
Well, they actually say that in the trailer.
It. I know. That's why I was like, whoa, okay. So thank you that somebody's actually thinking about that.
How many times has he been disavowed? It's only a matter of time before he cracks.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. And I was like, yes, thank you. Jesus. Okay. So, yeah, you got me on board with that. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, Superman versus Ethan Hunt.
I do too. I'm really looking forward to that one, honestly. In fact, if you ask me, I mean, obviously, Infinity Wars, Black Panther, these are the ones that I really can't wait for. Mission Impossible 6 is right up there after this trailer. I really liked it. And I think this is probably going to be his last one. So, I mean, I think he's going to go out on top.
When I was in Moscow, I heard about a program. Young officers trained to seduce and manipulate. To use their bodies. To use everything. Call them sparrows.
Red Sparrow. Okay.
Can we end it there? Seriously, I look at that and I want to find Ike Perlmutter and I want to beat the crap out of him because I'm like, you had the opportunity to do this movie 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, with a character that people like, and these guys beat you to it. I mean, come on. How blatant? This is blatant. I'm sorry. This is blatant.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, Black Widow, Red Sparrow. I mean, it really, and that is more or less her backstory, frankly, isn't it?
Yep. They have that. There's that one scene where she's I don't know, where she's younger and there's this like stern looking woman, matriarchal woman that's talking to her. It's like, that's freaking right out of Age of Ultron, man.
Right,
They had that whole dream sequence in Age of Ultron where they showed Project Red Room, which was the project that made the Black Widow and a bunch of other agents like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was expanded upon a bit in the TV series Agent Carter in the first season.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's just, it's like, no, guys, no, I have no interest. I know this story. I've seen it already.
Yeah.
And
now we have to deal with Jennifer Lawrence when we could have had
Scarlett Johansson.
Right?
No, sorry guys. I'll wait for the actual Black Widow movie. That's going to come at some point. And you know what? It'll be better.
Mr. Sawyer, is your family enjoying their stay?
Very much so. They're shocked you gave us the entire floor.
After your security assessment, what do you think of the building?
With all due respect, he is a glorified security guard.
Please.
The Pearl is the tallest, most advanced building in the world. You've built a vertical city, but you've brought with it every single safety and security challenge that I could think of.
We thought this floor was empty.
So did I.
Not only have you brought them all indoors, but you've trapped them 240 floors in the air. No one really knows what would happen if things go wrong. But I'm just a glorified security guard, so what the hell do I know anyway?
At one point, I really thought for a split second, are they going to remake Die Hard?
It is. It's Die Hard, dude. Even when I showed it to Liam, that's my son, ladies and gentlemen. When I showed it to him, he because he's kind of like in The Rock, Dwayne Johnson right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, wow. I said, Liam, I think that's basically a PG-13 Die Hard. He's like, oh. It's like, are you want to see it? And his response, nah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, honestly, guy, when I saw that one shot, he's jumping from the crane all the way across, like 30, 40 feet in the air across.
With the fake leg, by the way. Let's point out the fake leg.
And that, oh man, that was irritating too. Right. I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, not Die Hard again. He goes off the side. I mean, it was almost like a remake of a shot like that, but this is now just the ridiculous version, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what's the point of the leg? And then, of course, the last shot is him dangling by that leg. Click, click, click. I'm like, oh, come on. I almost kind of felt like that was a little insulting to people who might have a prosthetic leg. I mean, I'm not like, whatever.
This movie is banking solely on Johnson. The guy, you know what? The guy's got personality. And he exudes it. He's got charm. He's not the greatest actor in the world. And he looks kind of like a lunkhead, but he also kind of looks like the guy that'll have your back and, buy you a beer and would be fun to pal around with. Girls want to have sex with him. Guys want to have a beer with him. And that's what they're banking on. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, he's pretty much, he's box office gold, frankly, at this point. I mean, you just throw him in whatever and he'll do fine. Yeah, I mean, it'll make money. It could actually be decent. So, but I mean, just looking at it, it just looks like a lot of nonsense, a lot of silliness to the point that I genuinely was wondering, is this another Dundee? Is this a gag? Where, I mean, it was such a, it was almost like a goof on action movies. It was so, cliche and stereotypical, but and not whatever. In the Last Action Hero manner. They're trying to be serious here. Right, yeah. Now, honestly, I looked at the two of those trailers. I looked at the fake trailer for Dundee, and I looked at the real trailer for Skyscraper, and I wish I could see Dundee.
Coming up on the drop zone, Cap.
You do anything fun Saturday night?
Well, all the guys in my barbershop quartet are dead, so no, not really.
If you ask Kristen out from statistics, she'd probably say yes.
That's why I don't ask.
Too shy or too scared?
Too busy!
Was he wearing a parachute?
No. No, he wasn't.
As Steve Rogers struggles to embrace his role in the modern world, he teams up with a fellow Avenger and S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Black Widow to battle a new threat from history, an assassin known as the Winter Soldier. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, based on characters created by Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, and Ed Brubaker, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, at long last, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. You start, because I'm basically going to be masturbatory throughout this. I'm just admitting that now. Once again, I said last week that I went back and watched the first Avenger and enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. This one just reminded me of how I felt the first time I saw this, when I honestly didn't know what to expect from a Captain America film. And this film really took it up a notch. And it really gave you the right movie for this character, I think. It was absolutely positively a phenomenal modern take on this character. And when I say modern take, I mean, you had Captain America in his original element in World War II. Right. What are you going to do with that character now in the modern world? You're going to keep that hokey thing going on? Where they somehow nail it. And they give him a proper story that feels like, almost like it's like a Tom Clancy thriller in one sense, yet, a proper superhero story with superhero abilities and characters that are still larger than life. With the action scenes are incredible. The characters are fantastic. So many people they're really hitting it out of the park. It's all around just a fantastic film. So I plan on doing some gushing myself. I'm honestly shocked at how much they actually got right in this film, yet still keep it so incredibly faithful to the character. Mm-hmm. To the point where like I said, it really honestly blew my mind
in how it actually surpassed expectation. So again, get ready for 45 minutes of gushing.
Because I'm just going to actually just say it right here and right now. This is my favorite Marvel movie.
I don't blame you. I think it's a lot of people's favorite.
This is my favorite Marvel movie. The Russo brothers' approach to this movie was the idea of a superhero in a 3 Days of the Condor style story, and Marcus and Freely absolutely planned the Winter Soldier to be the second part of the series.
Yeah.
And because of that planning, it works so much better. It much more large and much more personal at the same time. Each of the characters are given something to do. There is nothing here that is superfluous. It's all intentional. And subtlety, little subtle things about this movie is what I love. Like when they go back to Camp Lehigh, and they're just walking around trying to find out where it is, and the camera's up, just following them, and it goes up high to the top of the flagpole. And that was it. That was all you needed to see. You didn't even need to see the ghost of Stephen Rogers. Seeing that, and I was like, look at that. What a nice little callback.
Yeah.
And that's just the subtle stuff. If you have this situation where they basically completely turn the expectations of S.H.I.E.L.D. as an organization upside itself. They're just the whole idea behind it, and they give reasons for everything that's happening. Like people were saying, well, why would Cap work for S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's like, well, he's a soldier. But then when he goes to visit Peggy later, he basically says, he can't stand working for Nick Fury because he lies all the time. But he's mostly there because he is helping and because of her.
Yeah.
So that when you said to me, that seems just, it's like, no, that established two things. It gave us time to mourn the loss of that character, and it established the reason why he was still with this place when he was so morally opposed to the things that they were doing.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, see, it's funny. That's all true. And in some ways, I kind of just, I look at that and I say, well, when you say, well, why would he work for S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's like, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. is more or less the Avengers, frankly. It's almost like, well, they're kind of interchangeable when you think about it. And what else would he be doing? Yeah, you're right. She helped found it, and now he's in it. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I do love the fact that it's funny. And you mentioned this last week, how when Bucky gets captured,
right?
They do kind of make a quick flash reference to that in this. And honestly, when you said it last week, I totally agree that when he rescues Bucky, it's almost like after that, Bucky doesn't quite seem the same.
Right. Just a little bit different.
Yeah, like he was just a little off after that. And so the groundwork was laid, and here it was. And honestly, I have to also say, it's amazing to me how, I mean, think about it. By the time this film is finished, we've had 2 Captain America movies. A character that's literally been around since World War II, okay?
Right.
And somehow they managed to embrace enough material from the early comics and then move to a more modern setting with the Winter Soldier. I mean, they really pull it off. It's kind of amazing how they can do that. And when I didn't really read the comics when he was around the Winter Soldier time, but as much as I've read up on it since, I'm really sort of impressed with how they've managed to take so much material and weave it into this story.
Mm-hmm. You've got that amazing opening, and here was the thing: that opening scene on the Lemurian Star, that was Chris Evans. He was like, he was like, you know what, the Captain America, the First Avenger came out, and they made a Captain America First Avenger video game. And in that game, you do some wild stuff as Captain America.
Oh, yeah?
So his was like, now look what he's doing with the shield here. Look at what he's doing there. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And the director's like, then let's do that. And that's the entire opening sequence of on the Lemurian Star. Cap jumping out of a plane without a parachute, right out of the damn comic, and just kicking serious butt from the stern to the bow.
And you're absolutely right. That, I mean, it almost it's like I want to say it feels like a different movie, but with Captain America in it. If that makes any sense at all. It's like it works kind of on like a Mission Impossible type film or a different sort of a spy film, but with Captain America. And right, like you said, the things he's doing with the shield are just, again, right out of the comic. And you're saying to yourself, how are they doing that? How are they making this feel so incredibly realistic, yet this guy's throwing a shield around that bounces around and comes back to him, and it works. It all works perfectly. And it's like, you know, I love the chord that they hit with this. I mean, they really do hit such a the perfect balance of a realistic spy thriller with superheroes. I mean, it something about it works perfectly. And I even notice, like, for example, when
Captain America throws his mighty shield,
when the cars come and crash into Nick Fury's car.
Oh my God, that sequence! But please go on.
So
go
good,
on.
right? I mean, it's such a great sequence all around. I know there's a part where when he's saying, you know, he's talking to the computer in the car, "Get me out of here," or whatever, and he says something about to fly it out, like something he says, like, you know, fly me out of here, or hit the something or other. Right. And it says like the flight capabilities are dead. Right? Mm-hmm. Damaged. And I said to myself, you know what? Now that was smart, because you're saying to yourself, like, the over-the-top technology they have, wouldn't you have maybe like a flying car? But they do it in a way that it stays on the ground. And it's almost like that's a metaphor for the film. They keep it grounded. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Oh, I like that. I like that you say that. I think it was vertical launch capabilities disabled or something like that. Right.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I remember noticing that, thinking that was a very smart move. You know, like keep everything grounded, keep it realistic, without getting into flying cars and craziness, because this movie has to be a little more down to earth.
Right. Exactly. And of course, him being the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., he absolutely positively would have a flying car. He would totally have a repulsor powered car. So yeah, that oh my, you see. It's a funny little story. Do you know how Anthony and Joe Russo got this? Got the directing for this? So, have you ever heard of a TV show called Community?
I don't think so.
It lasted 6 seasons. It was a comedy show that was written by a guy named Dan Harmon, and the Russo brothers were directors for a couple of the episodes. And it's a very geeky show. They did one episode where the entire community college got into a paintball match. And they filmed it like an action movie, like, you know, because one of the characters like is very Deadpool in a fourth wall way. So whenever certain situations match up with a movie, he's like, this is like Die Hard. So now they basically did Die Hard with paintballs type of situation. Okay, it's a funny show. You should check it out sometime. But they directed the episode, and I think it was called Lessons in Modern Warfare or something like that. But the action sequence in it were really, really good. And that was basically what got them the first Avenger. And I was like, the Winter Soldier. And when I first heard they were going to do it, it's like, you know, I like these guys. I think they're, you know, but I don't know if they're going to do that. But holy smokes, did they blow my head out of the water with the action sequences. I figured, okay, fine, they would get like good timing and things like that. But I didn't expect, oh my God, I did not expect that whole sequence with Nick Fury. Did not expect that. The entire sequence is like a heartbeat. Not a heartbeat. My heart was racing throughout that entire sequence, because I said to myself, if there's a time to kill off the character of Nick Fury, this is it. Okay, fine. It was a fake out, but for a little bit there, I was really believing that this might be it for Nick Fury. And the way that they shot it, the way that they just captured him with the two cars and everything like that, so brilliantly staged. Yeah. So
the action pieces in this film are phenomenal. I mean, every one is really good. There's not a single action piece that you would turn your head away at. I mean, all of them are phenomenal.
You've got him escaping from S.H.I.E.L.D., jumping on the helicarrier and disabling it. You've got that entire end sequence with him and Falcon are going against the Project Insight helicarriers and everything like that. That was outstanding. Just the Lemurian Star, but you know what? The one that will always remain with me, the one sequence in that entire movie that I loved from the moment I saw it, the elevator.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say another one, but yeah, that's phenomenal. And not only is that a great sequence, vintage Captain America, when he goes, now before we start, if anybody wants to get off, I'm like, that is Captain America right there.
It was beautifully, it was so well shot. Just like, everybody's coming in subtly, and you gotta love the acting on Chris Evans. Like, he's not giving it away, but you can see he's like observing, and he's like, this is kind of sneaking a little bit, and then he's like, when he says the line, he's almost disappointed. That's what I loved about this movie. It's like before we get started, does anybody want to get off?
Totally, yeah. Like he's already kind of like realizing what's happening. He's like, you're absolutely right. I thought that was a great, such a vintage Captain America comment. Like, anybody wants to get off, like,
in an enclosed place against 10 guys, and he takes them all the hell out.
Yeah. By the way, I know I'm a one-trick pony. Costume is awesome. I love the update to the costume, because I swear to God, I remember I'm watching that and thinking, like, and I know that's sort of like a different version of that. That is pretty much canon, right? That costume that he had on.
Oh yeah.
Like, that showed up in the comics, right?
Oh yeah, no. There was a while there where Steve was actually in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that was very, very reminiscent of the costume he wore as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I remember watching that and saying to myself, especially the scene, like he goes, the whole opening scene, he's wearing that, and I just thought it looked terrific. But even later, as he goes in to meet the Robert Redford character, now, first of all, I thought Robert Redford, the casting there was phenomenal, and I thought the way he and Evans play off each other was great, because it was almost like, I almost feel like Evans is like the new Robert Redford, frankly. And Frank, I almost felt like the two of them together. I almost felt like this was, him as the old Robert Redford talking to the new version of Robert Redford. Again, it was a young versus new kind of a thing, and I thought it worked nicely.
Almost like a passing of the torch.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
It really did sort of work. It's almost like they say, like, a good villain is sort of the mirror image of you, kind of. Mm-hmm. And and I'm saying to myself, like, Redford here looks like a kind of a twisted version of Chris Evans. But getting back to the costume, I thought the costume, he's in the office, and this is where a costume would look out of place, like when you're in an environment where it doesn't fit. But I remember thinking to myself, like, it looks so much like just a uniform, kind of like somewhere between like tactical gear, like a practical tactical outfit that you would wear, and just sort of a uniform, that it just kind of blended into the woodwork. And the fact that I wasn't noticing he was wearing a costume in a way made it work.
Yep.
I thought it was really great. I mean, again, it was talk about such a believable looking costume that you would believe that he would wear this. And I remember thinking, like, I just didn't even blink.
Yep. You see, here's the thing, Mr. Zack Snyder. And yes, I'm addressing this to you, even though I know you're not listening. I swear to God,
I was thinking the same thing. For some reason, I resisted the urge to do it. I had the same thought, whereas the DC comic people look so weird and out of place in those costumes. Here, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
It's quite all right. It's quite all right. First of all, they gave you a logical reason why Cap's costume isn't as bright as it was and more muted, because he was doing covert operations.
Yes.
And yet, they still kept the spirit of the costume within it, even with those muted colors. So now you have a logical reason why the spangly red, white, and blue guy is just a little more muted. But you also happen to have these, what are they called? Costume designers. Good costume designers who will do their best to make sure that how they choose the shading will work as covert and will also work in the bright light of day and not look ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I even like the extra step where they had the shield, but it was like the colors were muted for the night shots. Yep. I mean, they really, boy, did they do a good job at that.
Yeah, and it all made logical sense. The logic of this movie is another thing that I adore. Like, they don't spoon feed the answers to the audience, but it literally is just a half a second thought. Oh, well, that's because of this, and that's because of that. They really do the show, don't tell. And I really, really, really appreciate something like that. Yeah. I do. I will always, any movie that doesn't preach to me. I mean, okay, fine. Cap has that big speech at the end.
If you launch those helicarriers today, Hydra will be able to kill anyone that stands in their way. Unless we stop them. I know I'm asking a lot. But the price of freedom is high. It always has been. 'em. And it's a price I'm willing to pay.
And if I'm the only one, then so be it. But I'm willing to bet I'm not. Did you write that down first? Or was it off the top of your head?
And some people would say, well, that's kind of preachy. It's like, no, actually, it's exactly the thing that needed to happen. Because he knew that not everybody in S.H.I.E.L.D. knows they're working for Hydra.
Right. I completely agree. And I thought, again, that speech was perfect. See, again, going back to the Captain America for the comics, I remember a lot of comics where the ones that I didn't think were written as well. As an example, I remember there was in Secret Wars 2, which was kind of a pale comparison to the original Secret Wars.
Right.
But there was a great scene where Captain America is somewhere doing something. And it seemed like they were kind of going out of their way to have people around with little thought bubbles saying, I don't know what it is about that guy. I mean, he's kind of corny, but every time he speaks, it's like I have to listen. Like he just seems so leaderly or whatever.
On the airplane, I remember that. He was on an airplane just flying somewhere in full costume. I absolutely remember that comic.
Right? I think I think you're exactly right. We're thinking of this exact same one. And so I remember thinking it was almost like that was Captain America's superpower, was that he just had this incredible his leadership was just that good.
Right.
And so that needs to translate on screen as well. So when he's doing that kind of a speech, that to me, that's Captain America. The fact that he can say something and garner support and people will follow him, that's Captain America. So again, good on them that they were smart enough to work that in here somehow.
There was so much about the character of Captain America that shouldn't work in a modern time. That should be anachronistic. And
Agreed.
yet, and honestly, this goes back to, I said his name in the credits as well, when I gave the writing credits. Ed Brubaker is the man who gave us the template for the true 21st century Cap. He's the one that brought back Bucky as the Winter Soldier and made Cap. Ed Brubaker is basically responsible for this movie in every respect. I should lend you the book, The Winter Soldier, the one that he wrote. Brilliant.
Nice.
So well written. It's beautiful art too. You would really, really dig it. If you can, go to the library and get it or something like that, but whatever. But he's the reason for the look of this movie. Everything about this movie came from that book that he did, and God, I wish I could remember the artist's name, but you know what? I'm a writer. I always focus more on the writer than the artist. That's my bad. I admit that. But there is nothing in this movie that doesn't have an origin from that particular level of the comic book. Because Cap was, for a while, everybody told us what a great leader he was, but there wasn't a great many examples where it was shown off. There were great speeches he'd make to, the main villain and so on and so forth, but during the early days of comics, that wasn't really what got him with me. That it was only when Brubaker came in that I started saying, I get Cap now. I completely get Cap now, and I wish I had gotten him sooner.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
There is not many ways you can do this, and I feel like this movie happens to hit it note perfect, from plot to casting to just little throwaways that they throw in for the fanboys. George Batroc at the beginning, that's Batroc the Leaper. He's like a sea level villain, but he's been a thorn in Cap's side in the comics for many years. And they threw him in there for one sequence, and that was beautiful. The audience didn't care. It's like, oh wow, that guy could really jump around a lot. Meanwhile, the comic book fans are going, tee hee tee 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 tee.
I joined S.H.I.E.L.D. to protect people.
Captain,
To build a better world
sometimes means tearing the old one down. And that makes enemies.
So you don't have to be in your face with your cameos. You can just have it. And it was intriguing. You never really knew what was going on. Even the big reveal with Zola at the end. Which, by the way, what a clever way to get Zola into his original look.
Yeah, I had I tell you what, as long as we're on that, I might as well. There is one or two things that I find a little strange about the film.
Okay.
That being one of them. I didn't like that as much. And I kind of felt like that was a little. That to me was sort of bordering on silliness, where they again, I didn't quite get why that was. First of all, just the idea that they put his essence into the computer. Well, okay. I mean, that's I kind of feel like that's a little future tech. But then to show his face on this old monitor, I'm kind of going, well, that's almost like Matrix 3 kind of stuff.
That was for the fanboys. That was for the comic book fans more than anything else. And honestly, the way I took it, when I first saw the movie, that was my first thought as well. It's like, well, why would S.H.I.E.L.D.? And then it's like, oh, we're actually Hydra. It's like, oh, well, that makes much more sense. Because Hydra would do the unethical stuff. Well, first of all, my feeling was he probably found out he had cancer, and he probably built that himself.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking the technology per se, but again, just as a way to sort of express the technology. I mean, you literally have like a talking computer. I almost felt like that was borderline like, older movies like, beep bop, I'm the computer, I will help you do whatever. Computer, do this, do that, whatever. I don't know. When you say that was for the comic fans, was that from the comic the way they did that?
Zola becomes a shell of himself, and he's like this giant thing with that, the camera that was looking between Natasha and Steve?
Yeah.
That was on top. That was his head, and he had like a giant TV screen as a chest with his face on it.
All right, then. Okay. If that is from the comic, I'll give it a pass. But
yeah.
I do remember kind of watching that, thinking it looked a little, almost a little obvious. Like there was moments, again, you talked about the base scene, and I liked it too. I really did like it, but I almost felt like when parts like that would come, and then Zola being there and everything, I almost felt like that was their attempt to make it feel like a sequel. It's almost like they were trying very hard not to be all Ragnarok and throw the first one away and just remake it. Because had you not had these sort of tie-ins to the first one, it could have had that feel, just by its own nature, not even on purpose.
Right.
But yeah, so I felt like a little these things were like it's like get it, we're still a sequel to the last one. We're still cool with that one. So, but yeah, okay, that's fine.
I you know what? I didn't see it that way at all. I felt like, sure, is the tech kind of dicey? Probably is, but I liked it. I think they could have gone, if they had gone like a full screen of him with his actual face and everything like that, that would kind of totally take me out of it as well. The fact that it was just kind of sort of a screen, the way I told myself, the way I felt the backstory was, he built the machine. He recorded his essence into the machine, probably died not that long after, and he probably would give printouts and stuff like that when he would find out about new technology, printouts on how to do upgrades as the years went by to allow, because I mean you saw that they had like a regular USB thing attached there at one point, so you got to figure through the years he probably had upgrades and he probably just dictated it to whoever was in charge of making sure that he was powered on.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I like I said, I'm not really dinging it big points or anything for this, but as I was watching it, I did feel like it did just feel like a little bit of a distraction because it just felt a little odd. But then again, I mean, we are in the era of Jarvis. So if you wanted to sort of say, like, well, this was the first inkling of Jarvis, like of actual AI, and this is the guy, he's a genius, and he came up with it first years ago, and it has, like you said, has grown since because it can, okay, all right, it's not a big deal, but it was, again, the face in the screen, I almost felt like it was.
That was pure fanboy. That was just for me. Okay. So. Not just for me, there were other fans that were like it. But the information he revealed, quite interesting, especially when he showed the news article about the death of Howard Stark, December 16th, 1991.
I did notice, yes, I did. I you know what? I did have that same flash. When they show that here, it's like, oh, there's the thing for the next one. Okay, we dropped a seed here again. Pretty smart.
Hey, dude, I'm going to blow your mind. Go back to the first Iron Man. And during the montage where they talk about Tony Stark's life, they show the picture of the original guy who played Howard Stark and the newspaper article of the day he died. Same date. Since 2008, that date has been there.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Oh, that's yes. Funny. I love the continuity stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what's funny? And this is a super minor nitpick, by the way. I always say to myself, why... if you know you're making these movies, why not get the same actor... why do you have one Stark in the Iron Man movies and another Stark in the Captain America movies?
I'm going to look at it as lack of... Well, first of all, if you think about it, after the first after the first Iron Man movie, they actually did get an actor to play Stark, and then they got an actor to play the younger Stark, and then they kept that consistent. You had the older Stark and then the younger Stark actors. The guy who was from Mad Men and the guy from I forget what he's called, but yeah. But
they keep the same Starks in the Captain Americas, and they keep the same Stark in the Iron Mans. I mean, they in that respect they're consistent. But again, like you're talking about, like when they show him getting killed in Captain America Civil War, it's actually the actor. Actually, I'm going to take it back because.
He didn't play him in the first Iron Man. He played him in the second Iron Man. He was the Howard Stark that was doing the video stuff that talked to Tony and told him that the park layout was it. Yeah.
So then he shows up in Civil War with that actor. But yeah, we still had the other Tony Stark. Well, whatever. I mean, it's a like I said, it's a minor quibble, but I just say to myself like it's odd. I mean, they've gotten everything else so incredibly. Like they've never had to do that in any other part of the series, except if you want to count like the recasting of the Hulk or something.
Right.
But here, I mean, they knew what they were doing, so why not use the same guy in both? It would have been really easy just to thicken his mustache, for the first Avenger, and use the same actor, put a little more hair on him.
He's a older guy. They were trying to get a really really young Howard Stark. Is all I can think of.
Look what they're doing to Michael Douglas, for God's sakes. They easily could have de-aged him a little bit.
But that's for small scenes. That's not like for, I mean, Howard Stark was in much more than just like that was one scene 5 minutes into the beginning of the Ant-Man movie. That was it. That, CGI is expensive, yo.
Oh, I don't know. Did you see the Pee Wee Herman movie that they did last year for Netflix? Right. The entire movie, he's de-aged.
You're up. It's time.
Okay, the one thing we did not mention yet, only briefly, the Falcon. Hello.
Now, how do you love Anthony Mackie?
He's great in it. I love him in it. I mean, when they first meet, just in the very beginning, when he's just jogging around and he keeps passing. I mean, it was a great scene. It was fun. So you bought the idea that these guys would sort of be fast friends or whatever. But then when they sort of mention him as Falcon, I'm like, and again, this is what I love. Talk about a character who would be, if somebody pitched the idea of bringing the Falcon into the mall, you'd be like, no. That's a guy we cannot. The guy's got wings under his arms and he's got a pet, Falcon. No, we can't do that. Yet they still figured out a way to bring him in, and I thought it worked just fine.
And they brought in Red Ring as well. Sure, it wasn't an actual Falcon, but what the hey?
But it's nice that they are. I mean, again, we're able to enjoy these movies now, frankly, because again, the special effects and literal modern day technology. I mean, we've got a lot of things nowadays that we never thought you would have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually can just about buy the idea that this tech can exist. So what you can, I mean, I do not mind that they rely on tech as opposed to, again, I don't remember how the original Falcon actually flies, if it is the actual wings or if there was some other reason why he can fly.
No, it's the wings. He the only thing he has is he has the ability to like see through the eyes of birds and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, and he's got these funny little, I mean, the wings under his arms are about as effective as the webs that are under Spider-Man's arms. Like they don't look like they would carry anybody anywhere.
Right on.
So the fact that they actually do a full-blown, I mean, like, it really does work well in this one. I thought, again, the guy who they got to do it, spot on. He's a very likable actor. So I just thought that was another home run.
Oh, yeah. Dude, so far you've hit on one thing that only slightly irked you. I don't think you're going to find a heck of a lot in this movie that you actually say, I really didn't like that. Because I've thought about it, and I have seen this movie at least 7 times, and I'm still looking.
Dude, I have Who Asked Yous, but seriously, as I was watching it, I had to take the most minor little things and say, okay, well, I got something, but it was hard. Believe me, this film is spot on. I mean, it's a home run for me. The only other action piece, by the way, you did not mention, the one at the overpass, which I thought was phenomenal.
Oh,
Where
he just pulls Stillwell right out of the car into an oncoming truck, and then it just goes nuts from there.
That whole scene, the part when Black Widow goes over the edge, hooks up, and then just kind of lands, hits the ground running. I mean, oh my God, that was great.
That's some beautiful editing right there, indeed. Yeah.
It really is. Yes, absolutely. And by the way, that was the point in the movie, by the way, that I really noticed the score. The music by Henry Jackman is terrific, is really good, and it works perfectly for this film. Again, as like a techno thriller kind of a thing, really works well.
They used the sound of a scream and like heavily digitally modified it for whenever Winter Soldier shows up. So when you hear that little that's a scream that they basically modified. It's God,
spot on.
You know,
really spot on.
So somebody actually pointed this out, and that it was like that's the scream that you hear whenever the Winter Soldier shows up. That's the screams that Bucky would make whenever they would wipe his mind.
It makes sense.
So
it makes sense.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. No, they really they did him terrific too. I mean, they really did.
Sebastian Stan finally came into the part.
Yeah,
and that scene when they're in the bank vault. And it's like he's just trying to process, this guy knows me, what the hell is going on here and stuff like that. That was almost heartbreaking.
Yeah. When he first says Bucky and he goes, who the hell is Bucky? Isn't that like a line right from the comic?
Right from the Brubaker Winter Soldier comic, yep.
When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. It is led to a fight and a duel is due, and the red and the white and the blue will come through when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
All right, Dave, I'll tell you what, I'll do my score first. I got a hunch I know what yours is going to be, so I'm going to go first.
Absolutely.
I gave it a 9. I gave the last one an 8. This one really stepped it up a notch, and frankly is as close to the perfect. Not only is it a perfect superhero film, but it is also a perfect thriller. It is a perfect spy thriller, even without the idea of Captain America. But again, the brilliance of some of these films. I called Logan my best movie of last year because it was a fantastic film on its own. The story was phenomenal. It's a phenomenal road movie, kind of a Western, but also the fact that it's a superhero movie just really kind of, it's almost like my perfect storm of awesomeness. So, I mean, that of course that's going to be my favorite. Yeah. And this is the same thing. You have a tremendous spy thriller combined with the perfect representation of one of the best superheroes of all time. What more could you ask for? So I absolutely gave this a 9. Again, I did have a couple nitpicks, but I'll mention them real fast at the end. But other than that, it is just a spot on, near perfect film, frankly.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you because you already know I'm giving it a 10.
Yes, sir.
I struggle every time when I watch this movie to say to myself, there's got to be something here I don't like. There's got to be something I feel is a flaw. And there was actually an interview with the Russo brothers who admitted to liking the Screen Junkies' honest trailers. And they said that they worked really, really hard to try to make sure to make it as difficult as possible for them to do an honest trailer for this movie.
I did see that, and I saw their rebuttal. Did you see when they actually brought them on?
I didn't actually see that. I heard about it. I hadn't seen it, though.
Oh, it's awesome. Not only did they do the honest trailer of The Winter Soldier, but then they do another, like a review, where they actually had the Russo brothers on, where they all sat, and with the guys who wrote it, and basically said, okay, now the Russos got a chance to rebut you guys or whatever, and they would watch it, and like bit by bit, they were like, okay, stop, and they'd be like, well, in fairness to this, and then sometimes they were like, okay, you kind of caught us there or whatever, and you're right, they said, even in the writing rooms, they would say, we need to make this so tight that the honest trailer guys can't ding us on anything. It was great.
Oh yeah. I absolutely adore this movie, and whenever people talk about, superhero movies are so vapid and stuff like that, it's like, you haven't watched The Winter Soldier.
There you go.
It's as simple as that. You haven't watched The Winter Soldier. You want me to fill you in on the plot and skip the first Captain America movie? Fine, I'll fill it in. But until you've seen this, you can't say that. You cannot say that at all, because this This is the pinnacle to me. This has the comic book elements. It's modern. It's dark. If you think about it, it's dark.
Sure.
You know, when your spy agency, when your biggest spy agency throughout the entire world is infiltrated by the bad guys and is ready to kill millions of people, yeah, that's pretty damn dark. And they made it work.
Absolutely. I can't argue with anything you said.
So, of course, you know I do not have any Who Asked You. And honestly, that's what I was doing mostly with this. I was trying to find a Who Asked You so that I can, you know, give it the 9.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find one. And I looked. I looked. I really, really looked.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, my Who Asked Yous are so... I literally have 3, 2 of which I've already commented on. So tiny and stupid that they shouldn't even register, but okay. Here's what I found to complain about. Dr. Zola's face in the monitor I thought was a little... Okay, it was a little Matrixy and a little something or other. I didn't mind it. And the fact that you're telling me that was right from the comic, I pass.
Okay.
The other nitpick I had was the 2 different actors playing Mr. Stark. I like I said, it's a minor.
Oh my god, dude!
I'm scrambling for anything here. It's not even a complaint as much as just sort of an observation, and I kind of scratch my head and wonder why didn't they use the same guy twice? Like, it's very, very minor, whatever. The only other thing I could think of that and again, it's not even a complaint, just I wish they did it a little differently. When the Black Widow at the end, when she is dressed up as the other lady and then kicks ass or whatever, and then reveals that it's really her.
Right.
I don't like the electronic mask. I don't like... She kind of takes this little kind of electronic webbing off her face. I would have much rather... And I'm guessing it's because of, like, Mission Impossible that it didn't just pull off a mask. Mm-hmm. I would have just rather the mask. I thought it was one of those, like, where it's like, again, and I've complained, I've said this about the Marvels before, that the only thing that sometimes gets on my nerves is the tech is getting just kind of so ridiculous that they just sort of can do anything without explanation. And I'd like to see them dial that back a little bit. Right. And that's all I got. I mean, that's really all I got for Who Asked You.
All right, I can understand that. I absolutely, I'm not going to ding you too much on that. I can get that. All right, for your consideration, sir.
For your consideration, 2 things. One, like we talked about, I thought this was I was very, very impressed on how the connective tissue between the films. The fact that they basically hinted at the Winter Soldier in the first Avenger, and the fact that they've already planted the lead-in into Civil War with the death of the Starks. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really, really sharp, and it really tells you that this, again, the Star Wars trilogy didn't put that much thought into their own trilogy. This is a series of 3 films which, frankly, don't need really a lot of connective tissue. It doesn't need to be. It could just be 3 episodes in the career of Captain America. No, it is a specific 3-part story, and it connects perfectly, which frankly is
remains
amazing.
Self-contained, and still manages to remain self-contained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And frankly, the other for your consideration, I'm just going to say it: the Russo brothers.
I'm here. I feel you.
You know,
what a discovery.
Guys, you and I should also tip my hat to the writers too. But boy, did they nail this property.
Mm-hmm.
They nailed this character. They gave us a perfect story in which for this character to shine. Hats off. I can't imagine. I honestly can't think of any better way they could have handled this character.
Agreed. 100%.
So you, my friend, for your consideration.
Well, mine's similar to yours, but I'm just going to call it out specifically. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, the writers. You 2 gentlemen are responsible as responsible for this entire trilogy of Caps as is Feige, as is Joe Johnston, as is the Russo brothers, as is Chris Evans. You are the heart of this, and you guys are the reasons why this movie works, as far as I'm concerned. Because these are guys that obviously understand the lore and love the character of Captain America, and they know that they have to do things to appease 2 audiences, and they do it.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just, you know, they know they can't completely please the geeks, but they're going to try their best to make sure that they show that they respect the character. And you can never really please the rest of the world, but they're going to try their best to make sure that they do have the two intermingle, and they make it work.
Right.
That's a feat, dude. As far as I'm concerned, those guys are the unsung heroes, not only of this movie, but probably of the up-and-coming Infinity War movies as well.
There you go. Exactly. There's a reason that you do such a good job with this film. You get Infinity Wars. You win the prize. I totally agree. And again, you have to not only be incredibly competent writers, but you have to be fans of the source material, and they're the perfect guys for this story.
Bless them. Bless them. Bless them. Bless everybody who worked on this movie. Thank you. Thank you. But the Gush Fest continues, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. If it'll be interesting to see how we both feel the next one compares to this one, because again, I think the next one is just so phenomenal. Some say it's better, some say not quite as good as this one. But hey, I mean, you want to talk about, like you said, a phenomenal trilogy? Boom. To cap it off with, no pun intended, to cap it off with Civil War. Wow, what a great film, and I cannot wait to. I frankly am really looking forward. I haven't really watched it in a while, so I'm really looking forward to. I now have an excuse to sit down and watch it, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I watch it every once in a while because I'm. Folks, seriously, I apologize if I'm predictable when it comes to these movies. These movies tickled me pink, and I love them. So yeah, so you're just tuning in for Joe's opinion. I get it. It's okay.
to see what Joe can nitpick next.
Yeah. Gosh darn that Armin Zola. All right, my man. Until next week.
See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.